On this week's StressLess Camping RV Podcast, we look back over maybe half or maybe all of 2024 and share a little bit of each episode.
Yeah, perhaps it'll spark an interest in revisiting an episode, or if you're new to our podcast, first of all, welcome, and then maybe you'll learn about an episode you'd like to hear all of.
We have this week's podcast along with notes, stories, and all the things that go along with this year of episodes, including discounts, deals, helpful hints, and more at our home on the web at StressLessCamping.com.
Don't forget to like and share, and thank you for joining us on our weekly RV podcast adventure.
He's Tony.
Oh my gosh, I am. That means you're Peggy.
Yes, indeed. And we are two RV industry veterans who travel part-time in a travel trailer looking to share big adventures and help you with great tips,
tricks,
and discounts.
And I'm slow on the uptake today. We'd like to start by thanking ABC Upfitters for their support in 2024. I know a number of you have said that you have had your RVs upfitted with ABC Upfitters. And, you know, universally, it's been a great experience. We have heard nothing but good things from them. We have our own ABC upfitted travel trailer now.
Yes, we do.
And we've been just truly impressed with the quality of the installation and the system and everything. So if you're looking for a great lithium and solar upgrade for your RV, whether you want just a small battery upgrade or a incredible system that'll keep you off the grid indefinitely.
Yeah.
Our friends at ABC Upfitters are the ones to call, using all Mastervolt components, which come out of the marine industry, and just high quality components, one supplier, so nobody's finger pointing. It's a great solution. So if you're looking to get off the grid and stress less, call ABC Upfitters at 574-333-3225.
That's 574-333-3225, or check them out at abcupfitters.com.
Well, we have been saving little snippets of just about every podcast.
Just about everyone this year in 2024.
And we thought, well, we're going to do a recap episode. However, it's long enough we may do 2 episodes. So if this is part 1 of 2, then you know we babbled on a little too long.
We are going to share with you moments from each episode that maybe will amuse you, remind you, inspire you, maybe inspire you to go revisit an episode or listen or watch for the very first time if you're new here. Welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
And we just thought, just a little recap, a tiny little clip, just to remind you what we talked about all year, because we talked a lot.
What a surprise. Well, we started the year with episode 237, and that was with Ryan Gouet from The Flated Truck Topper, which we've had now for a while and since then, and really like it. So let's hear from Ryan.
Flated was a crazy idea that myself and 3 colleagues kind of came up with years ago. We were in the surf and the paddleboard industry, so we were very familiar and helped actually introduce inflatable paddleboards to the market using inflatable drop stitch technology. We had the idea of using inflatable technology to make an inflatable truck topper.
We have been kind of slowly gathering supplies to camp a little bit different way. And now we're not suggesting that we're going to change our lifestyle by any means. But every once in a while, we think it would be kind of cool to just hop in the 4-wheel drive truck, drive somewhere that we've heard about that the trailer can't get to, and spend the night.
We now have enough gear to make sort of a day use or overnighting camper using our pickup truck. And that's one of the reasons we wanted the new 4-wheel drive pickup truck. One of the variables is, well, you're going to need a cap or a camper shell or whatever the heck you call it.
For sleeping in, because what we don't have, the one thing we don't have is a tent. Now, we do have the screen gazebo.
Yeah, we have the Lippert screen gazebo.
But we don't actually have a tent. We used to have one, and the last time I used it, the wind blew so hard it broke the tent. So I haven't replaced it, and that's okay because we can sleep in the truck and be up off the ground.
Yeah.
And still have all the other quote-unquote tent camping amenities that we have filling up our garage right now.
Yeah.
Next, we'll hear from Jonathan Ballesteros. In episode 239, he introduced us to the geyser shower system, which we love.
We're with Jonathan Ballesteros from Geyser Systems.
When I was living in the back of a van in Australia for a year, I was always running out of water and I was really frustrated. I was just looking for a way to make the most of every drop of water. 2 people to take a shower with 0.8 gallons of water. That's 10 to 20 times less water than any other shower in the market.
A lot of the people who listen to us have an RV with a shower in it, as we do. So we bought your kit to just attach to an RV shower.
Yeah.
And we've been trying it out for a few days. And it's fantastic.
Just connect our flow control. We have different sponges that you can attach at the end of that tube. You wash yourself with a sponge that's directly applying each drop of water exactly where you need it.
I want to take a bunch of showers just so I can see how much water I'm saving, which would be a bunch of water wasted, but I'm very impressed with what you've accomplished. When we recorded episode 241, we were out in the desert, and that's where we learned about What 3 Words with Marcus Taylor.
I've been using the heck out of it to show people how to find me here.
Of course, yeah. Often one of the first ways people will encounter What 3 Words is they've heard of a public safety incident where someone couldn't be found in an emergency. They were in the middle of the desert or they were hiking up a trail and they managed to use What 3 Words to rescue that person. And so people will often say, right, I'll download the What 3 Words app so I have it in case I'm, in an emergency. And then something wonderful happens is then they realize there's loads of actually really cool things you can do with the What 3 Words app if you're an outdoorsy person, like sharing beautiful viewpoints with your friends or saving great places to park your RV, arranging meetups at interesting spots. So we'll often see that sort of progression of downloading the What 3 Words app because it's really useful in an emergency, and then discovering lots of cool stuff that you can do with it.
Episode 243, we talked to the Keene honey folks with amazing bee facts.
Yeah, and we still have some of that honey,
do.
but we're running low.
And that's okay because they were at the Quartzsite show last year.
Yes, they were. And hopefully they will be again this year.
But I mean, not in terms of like stress, but just in terms of they just don't live that long.
Yeah.
So they're going to do their job in Oregon. And by the time you go to California, you have like a whole new set of babies.
Yeah,
Okay.
the queen, from the time the queen lays the egg, it's about 3 days for the egg to hatch to a larva.
Wow.
And from the larva stage, it's about 21 to 22 days before the bee emerges out of the cell.
Okay.
So in the springtime, you got baby bees constantly hatching. So how it works kind of is the baby bees, when they hatch, their main job at that point is to take care of the hive. Their job is to clean the hive, feed the queen, and to take care of the hive. And as they get older, the new babies come off. Those bees that were babies, they leave the hive and start to forage. So they'll be the bees that'll forage. And then when those bees basically start to die off, you got the new hatch that comes off inside. Those bees move from being the keepers of the hive to the foragers of the hive, and it's just kind of a...
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing cycle. And then in the wintertime, when the bees know they know winter's coming, they just know. They tell you before you know because they'll kick all the drones out of the hive, and the drones are the only male bees in the hive, and their only purpose is for breeding the queen. That's it. So all the bees in the hive are female except for the drones, and the drone population is usually about 10 to 25% of the whole population of the hive.
Okay.
But in the fall, they'll kick all the drones out of the hive because they don't want to have to feed them all winter.
Right?
And they don't raise anymore.
Yeah.
And then they'll raise a different bee for the winter.
Really?
They feed it differently. They feed it a little heavier royal jelly, because they want that bee to be a little bit stronger. They want it to last through the wintertime. So when they get into that spring mode, those bees will be able to go out and forage, and they won't die off so fast before the next set of bees come off. So it's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
One of my favorite RV techs is Dustin Simpson, and he owns California RV Specialist, has a new baby, and we spoke with him on episode 245 about preparing for the camping season. What else should we be looking at?
Do a thorough inspection of the overall unit. Check out your roof, check out your sealants, make sure all your vent lids open and closed, because they were sitting there stored up for so long during that winter months. The condensation and humidity change can actually cause those vent lids to get stuck in the closed position, where you might have to have somebody go inside, try to operate it, whether it was manual or electric, and give that lid a little lift to help break it free.
Right.
It's basically a stick on the seal. With the body, same thing. Whether you're going in and out of it, or you're living in it full time, or you're even going in and out of it just to check on it throughout that winter season, things flex and move and creak and shift. And so check out all the sealants, on your windows and your compartment doors and your moldings. Make sure nothing is separated or come loose.
I think in New Mexico, you don't even have to go in and out of it. Just the wind blowing causes that much flex.
Yeah, there were some 90-mile-an-hour winds here, which is nuts.
That brings me up to your awnings next, right? So, let's say it's closed and the unit's not under a cover. It's not inside storage. It's just outside exposed to the elements. Well, every time it rains, you're going to get water inside that awning. So opening and closing the awning, more than likely, I can't tell you how many times, even myself, I've took my own units to go camping and forgot to pull out the awning. So when I did, a ton of water came out. You open it up, it's all moldy and nasty, and you go, "Oh, geez, honey, let's close that." I want the guy next to me looking at me going, how come you're not taking care of your coach, kid?
Well, at least you and I don't have to worry about getting our hair messed up by water.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, other things to think about, slide out operation, so whether, again, if it's in the open or closed position, once you go to initially inspect that unit, that's your time to cycle those rooms in and out, make sure everything's opening and closing good. Again, make sure no, varmints or mice or anything crawled through a slide out, got inside a squirrel or somebody wanted to keep warm.
Yeah.
The last time we had you on, that was what we talked about, was slide maintenance. So if people have slides, y'all should go back and listen to that previous podcast also, and make sure that your slides are in really good shape.
Even with the slide outs, there's enough, now with the slide outs, as far as they've advanced so much, we have refrigerators in them and stoves and water pipes and conduit and all kinds of stuff that flex in and out. So what we don't think about is there is openings underneath, a fifth wheel, a travel trailer, or a motorhome, where a rodent can crawl through those areas and get in there inside your coach.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily see them because they're hidden underneath that slide out room, but there's still enough room to let a small little varmint get through there.
Yeah, those things they'll find the littlest spot and they can weasel their way right in.
Sure will. And can cause a ton of damage,
Oh, yeah.
In episode 246, we talked to Steve with Vintage Trailer Supply about vintage trailers, of all things.
Any old trailer that has aluminum structure in the walls is going to last.
Right.
It may be the floor rots out. It may be your chassis gets rusty and needs to be redone, but the actual structure is going to make it through the years. And that's why you see a lot of collectible Airstreams, a lot of collectible Spartans, and there are other brands also, because they have lasted in numbers from the early days.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that they have aluminum structure in them. And so, yeah, certainly the cabinetry goes bad. Certainly the floors go bad. And they're not minor restoration projects. They're large scale restoration projects with very specialized skills, and therefore professional restorers spend many hundreds of hours on them, and it costs a lot. Wood frame walls are much less expensive to put back together, and an easier do-it-yourself at home project. But we don't see the survivors from the 40s and 50s as much, because of the fact that they're so easy to kind of just decay in the elements, especially in the more wet climates.
Are you a member of a club like Escapees? Well, we got to speak with Carunza in episode 247, all about the Escapees RV Club.
We have member interest groups, so you can get together with other people who like to do the same things that you do, whether that's quilting or boondocking or you're solo. And then, of course, we have our services like our mail service, which is a huge thing, mail forwarding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We are the largest mail service in the U.S. for RVers. And it's a great service. It's actually the initial reason I joined. And then I got sucked in. And now here I am talking to you.
I think your story to that end is not unusual. I think a lot of people, when they're looking for a mail forwarding service, see the one from Escapees and they're like, oh, well, that would be a good reason to join.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they find the BOF or the Birds of a Feather chapters and all of the discounts and all of the things.
Yeah, we actually joined the first time because we were going to Quartzsite. It was going to be our first time boondocking. And the answer to the question of Quartzsite is always, oh, just camp wherever you want. And we didn't feel good with that.
Right.
Like that seemed too open of an answer. And so we actually joined Escapees so that we could camp with an Escapees group that we knew was out there. And that just started that.
That's great. I mean, because there are so many groups that meet up in Quartzsite because it is so easy in the winter for everybody to get to and pull in and then camp in the desert in a way, kind of wherever you want, but they set up those camps and it can be as big or as small.
Right.
So it's an easy place to do it. And I know we have so many of, as you mentioned, BOFs, that's our Birds of a Feather interest groups. So that do that. Like the boomers are always out there. The solos always have a camp out there. We actually have an event every year that's now called Party on Plamosa, and it used to be our national happy hour, if anyone remembers that. It's just a few hours one day, but we have food and we have a band playing, and it's out there on Plamosa Road, just right around all those camps too. So it's always kind of interesting driving around down the road and you see all the signs for the different groups that are camping together and having fun out there.
Yeah. Episode 248 did not go down the toilet
Oh!
when we talked to Josh Sheehan about his experiment with various tank treatments.
Yep.
He did a black tank simulation with a variety of black tank treatments that are popular and out there ready to buy. And he wanted to know for real which ones were the good ones and, which ones performed better. As I said, he made a great video, but also he was willing to speak with us and let us know what the results were. So
when it comes to number 2, Joshua's study was number 1. And without any further ado, here he is. Well, we have the privilege of speaking with our friend Joshua Sheehan from RV Gear and Far. And Joshua has worked hard to talk me into all kinds of stuff. But he also has a great YouTube channel where he talked about black tank treatment. So, Joshua, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, both Tony and Peggy. And for everyone listening, I can assure you it wasn't very hard to twist Tony's arm to try out some new products.
No, it never is.
No. Well, Joshua, you did a whole experiment with black tank treatment. So tell us about that. And of course, we'll share the video because it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just got to the point of, dumping in black tank treatments into my black tank after every time we dumped. And I was kind of questioning, like, well, why is this product better than another product? Or why is this one the crowd favorite in every online forum and no one ever talks about the other ones? So I jumped on the YouTubes and decided to look for black tank treatment comparisons to try and figure out and do a little bit of research as to which one I wanted to use and why one might be better or different or a use case scenario better than another black tank treatment product. There really wasn't a ton out there. There's quite a few comparisons between product A and product B, and it would last for maybe 10, 15 minutes, possibly overnight. And the big problem I had with those comparisons is that's not mimicking what we're doing with our black tank. We don't just put a deposit in the black tank and then let it sit for 7 days, then dump it, and then repeat that process. We're always adding in, liquids and solids throughout the day, throughout the week, and then depending how many people you have using that system, that could be quite a substantial increase. And it's kind of the old adage of, if you make a cake and you put it in the oven and then you pull the cake out and you add more batter, like you're never going to get a fully baked cake. And so that's kind of what we're doing with our black tanks too, right? Is that we're always adding material, but we're never letting it sit long enough to fully bake. And so I was curious to know, are there products out there that work better, work faster? And the biggest caveat with this is it's a backyard experiment, right? This is my experience with the resources I had available, time of year, temperature, the type of water you used, what you ate. If you have a family of carnivores versus a family of vegetarians, the deposits into a black tank system are going to break down differently. And so maybe the vegetarians use product B and it works really well for them, but that product might not touch what's happening with the carnivore family.
One of our favorite authors, we have a few who are fellow RVers, and one of those is Nick Russell. And in episode 249, we spoke with Nick, and you'll just want to go there and listen to that.
He talked to us about 2-lane roads and his favorite 2-lane roads, which is such a loving topic to me. But in this clip, he tells us about a book called Road Food that is very intriguing.
There's a great book called Road Food.
Road Food. I'm in.
They travel the country finding oddball restaurants.
Oh.
And some of those are just fantastic. We found one in that book for a place in Rockport, Texas called the Boiling Pot. And you go in and it's boiled shrimp and crawfish and stuff, and they come out there, they put a big piece of butcher paper on the table and they just pour it out.
Oh, yeah.
And you just eat it, that sort of thing. There was a place we found in Alabama, and I want to say it's called the Brick Pit, but I'm not sure about that, from the same book. But it's an old ranch-style house. And you pull around and they cook it out back, and you go inside, and the walls are just covered with paper where people have signed their names and stuff. And some of the greatest barbecue you'll ever have in your life.
Wow.
It's funny, you go to the bathrooms, there's a men's room and a women's room, but it's a house. It used to be a house.
Yeah. And
you go in the men's room, there's a toilet stool, and then a shower stall that says urinal, and it says, go ahead, everybody else does. Get into those places and eat that local food, and some of it's going to be the best you'll ever have.
Hey, want to stay out of the ER? Well, that's exactly why we talked to Dr. Mike Trobeck in episode 251.
Dr. Mike Trobeck, we are so thrilled to have you with us today, and we want to talk about how to avoid meeting you in a professional way. Not that you're doing this now, but Mike worked in an emergency room for a long time, and with his experience and knowing what he saw come in, he wants to help you not have that experience.
The camping season is getting up and going. Everybody's excited to be back on the road and out in the wilderness, and hopefully we can give them a tip or a trick that might save them a trip to the ER.
Before you even leave is when safety starts, right? You don't wait until you get on the road to think about things.
Peggy, it's no different than taking care of your camper or taking care of your vehicle. The best way to have a stressless, easy trip is to make sure that things are done before you depart home. When you're on the road, that's no time to be looking for that extra set of glasses or wondering if you filled your prescriptions before you left.
On the driving day, I know that we all do some things that we don't or we do know that we shouldn't really be doing for safety's sake.
I always encourage people about the rule of threes. We're trying to keep their days manageable and not too long. Get, a good night's sleep the night before, and they're well hydrated. You can get tired and sleepy a lot faster than you thought you would before. I'm not a big fan of people sleeping in the front of the vehicle, especially the driver. Airbags are designed to stop you from going through the windshield. So if you're one of those people that's tempted to really relax and stretch your feet out on the dashboard, I think I would really advise against that. The speed and force that airbags deploy at can really cause serious orthopedic injuries if your feet happen to be somewhere in the path of an airbag. And you don't want your body in contact with that when it goes off. Try and break your day up. There's a lot of fun things to see. You know, you can stop at the little brown signs and see the historical landmarks and the biggest ball of twine. But more importantly, I encourage people every hour and a half, 2 hours to get out. And even if they just make 1 or 2 laps around and check their tow vehicle and check their camper, but it significantly helps to decrease the risk of blood clots or deep vein thrombosis that people can get for sitting too long. So you do not want to be traveling with a blood clot.
Episode 253 took us to Colorado, where we talked to Scott and Taylor about developing their campground called the Campers Hub.
Yeah, we can't wait to go back. We are with Scott and Taylor, and they have a campground in Colorado, the Campers Hub.
There's a certain community where you want to find other people that are going through something similar, that are working from the road. So we thought it would be cool to create a place that kind of catered to the full-time traveler, but also that maybe is not retired yet, that maybe is working from the road or, has a remote job or something like that. So, we kind of thought it'd be cool to create a community and a campground that's built around that. We kind of bought into a hope, not so much a plan, of putting that together.
Even now with this build, and especially when we are RVing, if Scott did not have the skills to fix things, if he was not a handyman, there's no way we would be where we are now. I would not have agreed to RV.
The thought wouldn't have even been entertained in the slightest.
No.
Right.
I mean, I made a list of the things I've watched you do just on Instagram. Pouring and smoothing concrete, planting trees, interior decorating, and like a beautiful whole mountain painting on a wall, plumbing, putting in wood stoves, backhoe operator. And I'm sure I've missed a bunch of things, but I was just looking at all of the things you've done there. Well, one of the questions we get a lot is about what portable power station or solar generator is the right one. And that's exactly what episode 254 was all about. Portable power stations. And some of you may call them solar generators, but they're really not generators at all. They are basically a battery and a way to use that battery.
Right.
We see a lot of questions about how do I pick which one is the best? The first thing to do is figure out what are you going to power?
Right.
What is the device that you're going to want to charge or operate? How many watts you're going to want to draw, for how long, and what's the peak? Know what type of connectors you need to make it go. Then just shop based on that, and then look at sales and reviews.
A few weeks ago, we talked to Dr. Mike Trobeck, but in episode 256, we're talking about how to keep your vehicle out of the emergency room.
No matter what you are traveling with, it's so important to know the weights and capacities. Know what fuel you need.
Keep an eye on your gauges, right? While you're driving.
Set a benchmark. If you know when you're driving that the vehicle tends to run at this temperature, so I have a baseline of how it's working normally, and I do keep an eye on it.
We have tire pressure monitoring system built into our Ram and tire pressure monitoring system built into our tires in our travel trailer.
Know how to change the tire. And you might say, oh, yeah, I know. I have a jack in my truck. Some travel trailers, you have to jack very specifically. For example, we have torsion axles on ours.
Right.
You don't jack them by the axle.
Axles. Or you'll jack the axles.
Yeah, you'll jack the axle. And we have the Air Gear tire changing kit, which has a torque wrench, because the aluminum wheels on travel trailers, it's good to check those now and then. Any vehicle has transmission fluid, radiator, well, not every vehicle. If you have a Tesla Cybertruck, it does not have transmission fluid.
If you have a Volkswagen Bug,
it doesn't have a radiator.
You're probably not towing, though.
No, I hope not. My
I've
word.
only known one person that used a Volkswagen Bug as an RV.
This will be in your manual, how frequently to change the radiator fluid and the differential fluid and the transmission fluid and all of these vital fluids. Of course, the oil, coolant, even washer fluid, brake fluid.
Yeah.
Check your belts, check the underside of the belts to make sure, because that's usually where they start to wear.
Okay.
And the hoses, give them a wee squeeze, because hoses wear out from the inside out. All batteries have a date code when you put them in, and batteries last 2 to 5 years. You know, we all have roadside assistance, or I think most of us have. Make sure you know how to contact them.
As you're getting behind the wheel and pulling away from wherever you're parked, have your windows down, have your radio off, listen.
In episode 257, we talked about our experience after 20,000 miles in our Rockwood Mini Lite 2205S.
Wow, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah, and we don't have it anymore.
And we don't have that anymore. Let's see how long it takes before we need a 20,000 mile episode with our 2506 FK.
Hopefully not long.
We are in our 2205S Rockwood Mini Lite
2205S.
2205S. And what we thought we would do is talk about our almost 2 years now of owning just about 2 years.
2 years. And what kind of triggered this is our truck keeps track of how many miles we have on the trailer. Mm-hmm. And we've hit 20,000 miles.
We finally, after 19 and a half years, managed to get to New Orleans.
Laissez le bon temps rouler.
So that was, I would say, our most anticipated trip. We didn't always anticipate that we would do it in an RV, but we did.
There's been a lot of breweries that we've visited.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
I don't think we can list them because we'll for sure leave some out.
Gosh.
So
Yeah, right?
The furthest trip that we have done, we went to Indiana for the Frog Rally, and then from there we joined Bill, and the three of us made a trip around Michigan, all the way through Michigan and Upper Peninsula, about 4,500 miles. I didn't realize how close second the next one would come in with only 4,400 miles. And that was when we went through Tennessee and Kentucky into Georgia for an FMCA convention. And then that's the time that we went to New Orleans. And so that circle back to home was 4,400 miles.
Running the numbers, we really were better off in a 3/4 ton truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got one.
So we got one last October.
It's so much more relaxing just because that truck is so much better in control of the trailer. It's incredible the people you meet out here and the friends you make. Our friends in Rio Rancho are our friends because we met them through RVing.
This year in Quartzsite, we did the big gathering.
The week-long. For us, it's cheesy Americana.
Yes.
We love that.
One of the ways I do it is with an app called Roadside, and it is from Roadside America. Goofy, silly things like that, ridiculous museums, fun museums. Episode 258, we were joined by two guests, Doug Curtis with Soft Startup and also Mike Sokol.
Yeah. Doug, welcome. And how about a rundown of who you are? And
I'm not the inventor, but I invented the idea that it could be developed. Engineer something that would make it easy for somebody just to plug it into a power pole or a small generator to solve the 5 biggest problems that we found out most RVers are having when they're trying to stay cool in a campground situation or even an off-grid situation.
Anytime you spin up a motor, like the compressor on your air conditioner, when it comes on and you hear that clunk, it draws lots more amperage than when it's running. Basically, what Soft Startup does is it looks for that big inrush thing, and then what it does is it just adjusts the voltage. It limits the current down to maybe half of that or even less, just depending on what you've got, so that it doesn't overload and trip your generators. So instead of like popping the clutch on your car, jamming your car into gear, it's just like having a hydromatic transmission that just gives a little push.
What you guys have come up with is a soft start that just plugs into where the RV is plugged into. So it's an independent device that you simply just plug in. You can plug it into your generator. You can plug it into your power pedestal, and it accomplishes the same soft start functionality, but without any installation other than plug it in.
Plug it in.
So what are the trends in the RV industry? In episode 260, that's exactly what we talked about.
We got to spend some time looking at a lot of RVs last week, new kind of next year's models or changeover models. And we got to see some things that seem to be becoming more and more popular in the RV world.
The first thing that really struck me, interior design. Very attractive upholsteries, colors.
Really nice backsplash colors, herringbone subway tiles on the backsplash, and just a little bit more interesting. And it didn't feel as brown. I mean, there's still wooden cabinets, so there's still brown cabinets.
Yeah, there were some.
It didn't feel brown. It seems a lot more prevalent to see 12-volt refrigerators in rigs.
Almost universally, in every rig we saw, I think, was a 12-volt TV, and that was also a smart TV. The RV oven is quickly disappearing. Convection microwaves taking the place of the RV oven. Fewer burners, like 2 burners instead of 3. Really different bunkhouse floor plan. Had some really innovative use of desks.
And didn't you say there was like a slide-out room secret office?
Yeah, so there was one of these fifth wheels. In the back corner was a room that had a desk, but then the desk kind of flipped over and made a bunk, and then there was another drop-down bunk on top of that.
One of the guys came over and said, "Peggy, I think Tony's fallen in love with the voice command system."
It was cool, but I'm not totally.
Quality extremes,
Yeah.
right? There's almost no middleman anymore. You either got a really fancy rig with voice command or you have a very basic rig.
A real trend to what they call decontenting. A lot of the people who design RVs don't actually use RVs.
Episode 261 saw us among giants. The American Giants Museum in Atlanta, Illinois, where we talked to Bill Thomas all about American giants, muffler men, and the museum.
What are all these big people doing around here?
These big people are having a really good time in Atlanta, Illinois, and they're bringing all kinds of folks to come see them. The Snurd giant that reminds everyone of Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine is on the grounds of the museum.
What, me worried?
Right. He's very rare. There are hardly any of those left.
I've hunted these for a while and I've never seen one. In person.
No. And then probably even, well, I know it's rarer even still, back in the mid-1960s when Texaco ran a special nationwide advertising campaign, they had International Fiberglass build 300 24-foot tall muffler men that looked like their service station attendants. Long story short, the campaign was a disaster. They kept falling over. The gas station owners really didn't like to have to move them around. So Texaco said, destroy all 300. 6 managed to survive, and we have the only one of those original 6 that's been fully restored.
Have you been to Sedona? Well, if not, you can come with us virtually in episode 262. So, Sedona.
All the things you can do while you're RVing in Sedona.
Yeah, we have stayed at the Rancho Sedona RV Park, and it's a really pleasant place right on a creek there. You can walk down into the creek. The sites are nice. I believe they have full hookups. It's just a nice little RV park that we have enjoyed in the past, and there's something about this place that keeps bringing us back.
Maybe it's the vortexes. So that park is a little bit off the main drag, which is nice. It's nice and quiet. You could probably walk to that main drag.
Or if you brought your e-bike, I'm sure.
Or e-bikes would probably be a great way to get into town, and then you don't have to worry so much about parking.
The main stuff is close enough. That would actually be a really good solution, even if you're lazy like me.
Episode 263, we talked about 5 years worth of gadgets that we have accumulated, loved, not loved, and which ones we would buy again.
You know, we're like looking at all this stuff, and some of it, it's like, why do we have that?
Why do we have this?
Some of it's like, I wouldn't hesitate to buy that again.
Yeah, I'd like 2 of these.
Yeah.
So every trip is its own packing list, kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's
it's
a
good to have
thing,
choices.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it, we're very pleased with what we got.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of things, and a couple of things are trip dependent. So there you go.
Right.
So after 5 years, we've learned that we pack differently depending on the adventure.
Right, exactly.
In episode 264, we talk with veterans Mark and Julie from RV Love about the changes they've seen over the past decade that they've been producing content.
Now, I mean, just even social media's changed so much. There was no TikTok back then. I don't even think Instagram was really a thing back then. I think it was around, but we didn't even start an RV Love Instagram, I think at least a year in after all of the other platforms.
Yeah.
It was kind of happened gradually, but just learning all of that. And we did get to one point, it just overwhelming, like having recording on my cell phone and on the GoPro and on the drone and then on the actual video camera and then a little point and shoot camera. And then some was on Mark's camera, and this whole overload of all of the SIM cards and downloading it all and organizing it all was just, it just got to the point where I thought this is kind of defeating the purpose of why we do what we do.
Right.
And I remember there was one couple we saw going on a big trip, a picture they shared on social media, a picture of all of their equipment. It was like 100 pounds of equipment. And I just said to Mark, that is not us. We're not doing that. I said, cell phones are so good now. I said, we're not being big YouTubers. And you know what? A lot of people now actually prefer more homegrown stuff and less overproduced because it feels more natural and authentic. Sure. And I really wanted the iPhone 11 Pro. And Mark's like, well, they're over $1,000. And I said, I'm going to sell all this other stuff because we like traveling. We'd also just come back from Australia.
We were joined in episode 265 by Joel Holland of Harvest Hosts, and they had just recently purchased escapees.
I heard some buzz or rumor there's something exciting happening at Harvest Hosts. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes. So the big news this week has kind of been, a while in the works, but Harvest Host has acquired the Escapees Camping Club. We're taking over the membership section. Mel and Travis are going to continue running mail servicing, mail forwarding, and the campgrounds. But everything member related is now part of Harvest Hosts, which is very exciting because, Escapees is just a wonderful, wonderful group, wonderful brand, 46 years old, third generation. It's the spirit of RVing.
Yeah.
And I've loved it, right? I've attended Escapees events. I've been a member for a long time. And when we saw an opportunity to kind of put the two organizations together, I jumped at it because I think it's a great, great fit. I had gotten to know Travis and Mel, became an Escapees member, attended events, and I just always really liked the spirit of the program, which to me was a community membership. And in the last couple of years, I just kind of started floating this idea to them of, hey, if you guys are ever interested in, moving on to the next thing or finding someone to try to pick up the baton and take it to the next level, I think it could be an interesting fit. And so we had kind of talked about it around the edges, and then those talks just got more serious this year. And we ended up finding a really good arrangement that benefited both organizations.
Whew.
What a ride.
Yeah. I recognize some of the times that we had recording difficulties and when we started using new editing software and
yeah, so this episode kind of serves to remind us about the behind the scenes changes that we've made. Sometimes you don't realize what you've gone through until you really look at it again. We've made some changes to the podcast in an effort to bring you the best information in the best way that we can.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed this recap of 2024 and hope that you come back and join us in 2025.
It started with the cramping. Getting it out could be really uncomfortable. That's when the real plumbing issues happen.
Do you experience moderate to severe cramping at busy camping locations? Does your boondocking anxiety keep you from trying somewhere new? You could be suffering from IBS, intimidated boondocker syndrome, but Harvest Hosts can help. Harvest Host is a network of more than 5,000 small businesses coast to coast, where you can spread out and stay overnight at spacious farms, wineries, breweries, and attractions.
Who knew boondocking could be so easy? We looked, we booked, we stayed. Talk about immediate relief.
Now that I don't live with IBS, I'm back to loving RV life.
We're back to loving RV life.
Find the cure for your IBS at harvesthosts.com. Harvest Hosts, uncramp how you camp.
Last week's question of the week, or maybe it was the week before. I don't know. The holidays really messed me up.
We did do that Christmas episode
Sometime
too.
in the past few weeks, we asked you what, and this was based on our toolbox episode, what is your best RV tool? And we got some great information, great ideas for tools. So you should check that out.
I even bought a couple of more tools.
We did. Well, we said during recording that we had some things missing, so we knew we needed to do that. This week, I was curious, based on what you just heard or what you might hear next week or just your old memory, do you have a favorite 2024 Stressless Camping episode? Let us know at our fun and friendly Stressless Campers Facebook group.
Yep. And did you know we did a once a week newsletter that's totally, completely, and absolutely free with links to the stories, videos, podcasts, and all of the things to help you get the most out of your RV experience.
Just visit our website and sign up at the bottom of any page, or sometimes the middle of every page. I don't know. It's everywhere. Please
it's
know.
It's like Elvis. I'm everywhere.
Everywhere. We do not share your information. We only use that information to send you one email per week, period.
And don't forget our discounts and deals are also at our website for the best deals on the things you'll need on your stressless camping adventure.
And of course, we're in all the social places, so you can find us at StressLessCamping.com, and from there, jump off to all those places.
Hey, and if you don't want to miss a future episode of the Stressless Camping Podcast, it is absolutely free, and you could subscribe on any podcast player or head over to YouTube, and now we're doing videos every week. Because we're nuts.
Why not? We are saving you a seat around our virtual campfire.
Absolutely. Oh, and don't forget, a review will help others find our podcast. And the more reviews, the more those podcast companies say, "Who people are listening to this?" And of course, if you're on YouTube, likes, subscribe, all that YouTube silliness, please and thank you.
You can also share anything you find, episodes, videos, recordings, articles, Facebook posts, anything that you see that you think is shareable with your friends, please share. It really means a lot to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know how to share, there is a page with tips on how to do so. So, well, thank you for being with us on this recap and with us every week here at Stressless Camping. We hope you are really excited about 2025. Perhaps our paths will cross like at the Quartzsite Sports Vacation and RV show, or in the desert, or at an FMCA rally, or gosh,
so many
rally, so
choices,
many things.
yeah.
Until our paths cross, thank you so much for being here, and most of all,
Stressless Camping.